Welcome to the Raj and Drew Show for Entrepreneurs. I am Drew Jackson. I'm here with Raj Tedla. Raj, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, Drew. Thank you for asking.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited about the topic today. We're going to talk about getting some help for these entrepreneurs out there. Entrepreneurs need help. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, definitely. So we need help. We need mentors. We need coaches, and we need something that you're calling a masterful thinking partner. So, what I would like us to do is I really want you to define what these various individuals that an entrepreneur can seek out and get help from, get some guidance from in their entrepreneurial journey. And the first one is a coach. We both definitely fall into that category. We're certified as coaches, and so we have experience in this. But take a few moments and really describe what a coach does and how a coach can benefit an entrepreneur.
So the first thing, basically, I want to give a little bit of a background before we get in there. So if you look at a lot of successful entrepreneurs, they go through different stages of growth, and their needs and requirements vary from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3. And everything that today we are going to discuss about is the context from an entrepreneur who takes a business from 5 or 10 employees all the way to 500 employees. They need to go back and make a lot of changes along the way. And that's the reason why they need to get a combination of a coach, a mentor, and a masterful thinking partner. And that is the reason why I'm looking at it based on the personal experiences and working with almost 180 entrepreneurs over the years. There is some good feedback that has come through, and that's how this whole episode is being cleared. With that, the first piece of it is everybody is very comfortable is with the coach. If you look at it from a coach, their objective is to help entrepreneurs develop some skills, overcome some obstacles, and achieve specific business goals. The approach generally is very, very structured with you set up some clear goals, some action plans, regular meetings, and provide feedback. So that is the way a coach really works with them.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of benefits from a coach, offers a lot of clarity, a lot of direction, basically faster development of the entrepreneur as well. So if you
Yeah.
look at the market, there might be business coaches, there might be leadership coaches, there are startup coaches. All of this would be under the umbrella of coaching and coach.
Yeah. Yeah. And the idea or the concept behind coaching is the answer is within. So you're asking questions, you're drawing out information from the entrepreneur, and you're helping them look at their options and then determine what action they're going to take. What is the way forward, right? It's that grow
Yes.
model in coaching. And so with that, there's so many benefits because you as the entrepreneur, you know your idea, you know your business, you know your capabilities, you know your team better than anybody from the outside could. And so there are tremendous benefits in the process of coaching, because coaching is a process. It's a
Yes.
process of guiding someone through a series of questions to help them really gain clarity around what it is that they're trying to achieve, create action steps, and then hopefully experience greater success. And so,
Yes.
that's that coaching process, which I think many times people might get confused with sports coaching, where sports coaching is, a sports coach. I played football. I was a lineman. We had a lineman coach, and he taught us how to block, where to position our hips, where to stand, how to, get in a 3-point stance, and all these different skills he taught us step by step. And that is what a sports coach is. Whereas performance coaching is a little bit different in the approach and in that question asking process.
Yes. And Drew, you said that very well. In sports coach can be compared to almost like a mentor.
Yes.
That is the second piece of it where an entrepreneur can benefit. One is through a coach. The second is through a mentor.
Yeah.
And the purpose or the objective of a mentor is to provide guidance, really to support, advise, and inspire them based on their own experiences and everything that they bring to the table. And that is
Yeah.
what a sport coach does. Sometimes they are players themselves, or they have been a coach for the last 40, 50 years, working with so many people. They have a huge skill set. that they can go back and contribute. And that's the reason why the difference between a coach and a mentor is providing guidance. It's more like a teacher supporting and sharing their best practices and stuff. And
Yeah.
this is where the approach can be very informal. Like you can go back and you have a specific problem, talk to somebody, and it is an informal relationship. Or now there are a lot of people with a formal relationship as well. So most of the time, these people might be somebody who are already entrepreneurs. These are somebody who has already been serial entrepreneurs who have done business, or they come from a corporate world who have seen bigger projects, grown companies and everything else, and they bring all of the best practices to help the entrepreneur really make different mistakes, not the same mistakes, I would say.
Yeah. And I think with the mentoring relationship for an entrepreneur, you might be experiencing maybe you're leading a team of 10, and in your prior career experience, you never had leadership responsibilities. So you can seek out a mentor that can help you maybe with leadership and can mentor you through that process of, you might say, I don't know how to have this conversation. I don't know how to challenge a person that's not performing to the level that I need. And a mentor can guide you through that process, share with you what they've done. And that is a key with a mentor. If you're going to get a mentor that has expertise in what you've done or what you're trying to do, right?
Yes.
And what they're advising you on. You don't want to have a mentor that, if as an entrepreneur, that's never been a part of a small business. Maybe they've only worked in large businesses. There's just going to be a disconnect. They won't understand the dynamics. The layers of leadership aren't going to be the same. So you want to find somebody in a mentor that has experience if they're going to engage with you in that mentoring process. You want to find someone that has experience. And I found, I'd love to hear your feedback on this, but many times in coaching relationships, people want to move over into that mentoring relationship, right? You'll be in a conversation, you'll be asking questions, and they'll start talking about the problem they have. And you'll say, so what are your options? What could you do? And they'll say, well, I've done this, and this, and I'm just out of things. I've tried everything I know how to do. Raj, what would you do if you were me, right? You've gotten that question 1,000 times.
Yes.
And at times we try to avoid it because we want to expand their thinking and our client's ability. But there are other times where, you know what, they've tried everything they know how to do, and it's a competency thing, a competency issue, and they just need some training or mentorship around that specific thing. What has been your experience with that?
So I'm going to give you one example. My first coaching client, when I left the corporate and came here as an independent coach and started my own business, the first client I had, the first thing we were talking about is, Raj, I am hiring you not as a coach. If you're going to be a coach and ask me 100 questions, I really don't want to hire you. You have so many years of experience. You have so much of expertise.
Yeah.
So I want really to go back and leverage that and help me to grow very fast.
Yeah.
So I don't want just a coaching relationship. You can use the toolkit. And that is the first step for me to think differently than a coach, because I was certified and I only knew one way of looking at it. But this was an entrepreneur telling me, I went through 3 coaches. He was point blank and said, they asked me a lot of questions. And for me, that is not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I'm a smart individual. I know how to run my business and I can run it, but I'm looking for something different. Yeah. And that is when I became, and I said, hey, I'm going to be a mentor. I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to be a trainer or a consultant. I will do what is required for you. Yeah. And that is when my relationship, and I am so proud because he's a client of mine even today after 16 years.
My goodness.
And they grew from $1 million. They grew the business from $1 million to almost $22 million.
Golly, that's great.
So definitely that is where the inspiration for this module and the podcast came from.
Yeah, I could see why. You know, and it is a skill. Some people, I know I've met them. You've met the coaches that they do not deviate from coaching. They are a coach. They're going to coach you. They're going to do the coaching process, and they will not deviate from that process. And you know that's fine. That's great. That's a certain type of individual out there in the market, and that's going to attract a certain type of person. But I found a lot of people, they want that coach and they want that mentor as well. And so yeah, interesting. Well, do
So
you want to jump into masterful thinking partner? Because this is where I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about a masterful thinking partner, and kind of reflect and see if I've gone into that realm before.
yeah, so here, if you go back and look at it, the objective of a masterful thinking partner is to act as a collaborative sounding board to explore ideas, thoughts,
Mm,
strategies, and decisions in depth. See, the key part of it is in depth. When you talk to a neighbor, talk to another entrepreneur, you talk at a surface level, but
yeah,
you need somebody who's going very, very deep. So some of it is associated with coaching. I'm not saying that it is not coaching piece of
yeah.
it, but here you're going back and adding a little bit of coaching and a little bit of mentoring and everything else. And you're doing problem solving or consulting. All of that is built into that. So you go in depth with them. And we know all entrepreneurs, while they are going back and building their businesses, it is very lonely for them. They can
Hmm.
talk to their employees, to everybody else to a certain level, but there are certain tough decisions they can't talk because of the moral issues or the confidence issues or something like that. Let us say if I am a business owner, I have only cash left for 5 months. I can't discuss it with my employees because they might feel threatened and they might jump ship.
Yeah.
But I can do the same thing with my masterful thinking partner
Mm,
and say, hey, what can I do? How can I do different things there? There you take the masterful thinking partner piece of it. And the approach is it's more of engaging in intellectual dialogue. That is the difference. It's going to be a huge engaging in intellectual this thing, challenging a lot of the assumptions and thoughts of the entrepreneur here. And as and when necessary, you're providing some direct advice or solutions. That is the
mm,
difference between mentoring, coaching, and the masterful thinking partner here.
yeah.
So
That's
the
good.
role,
Oh, go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
So basically, it really stimulates a lot of critical thinking. That is what we need to bring in. Offers diverse perspectives and enables the exploration of various possibilities and solutions. That is the
Hmm.
difference piece of it here.
Yeah, I think for myself, as I just reflect on that, I think I've engaged in that process, or been a masterful thinking partner, um, when I do strategic planning with folks. I feel like I engage in that way, going really in depth, challenging assumptions more, and the in depth part. I think the in depth part, I tend to do that more when I'm in more of a consulting role, kind of in that strategic planning and phase of an organization. That's where I think that I've uh, delved into that. Most of my coaching sessions, I keep pretty strict and standard to 1 hour, and you can go in depth in an hour, but I can't even count how many times that we've had conversations, and you tell me I just got off a 3-hour call with a client. We went way into the evening, or I went to go talk to a person for lunch, and we ended up having a 2-hour conversation about X, Y, and Z. And so I can see how that, in my experience, you can get into that place much more often with clients, and you go there. I tend to, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a mindset thing, if it's a um, timing thing. I don't know, but I tend to stick to that time slot, and then we're done. But you have this free flow. I mean, heck, you've been a masterful thinking partner with me on calls. Sometimes we've gone for a couple hours just in our own personal conversations about my business and what's going on, and what I'm doing. So I can see that. I think I've done, kind of gone into it at times, but I'm not there all the time, for sure.
Yes. No, no, but again, that is the value these people get. So some of them are very, very skilled in a combination of that. So sometimes we can call the masterful thinking partner as a trusted advisor. There's a beautiful book
Yeah.
written around how to be a trusted advisor.
Mm,
This thing. Sometimes you can be a strategic thinking partner.
yeah.
And sometimes you are a decision making partner because some people struggle with decisions.
Yeah.
Because some of my clients, when I was, Raj, I'm trying to make a decision. Can you provide me your inputs on this? And that really helps them to move forward.
Yeah. It's funny because I had a training where I engaged in that masterful thinking partner, last week, I think it was, and I was working with a team of leaders, and I kept asking them, you talk about in depth, right?
Yes.
I would ask the same question. I don't remember what it was, but let's just say I was asking them for a definitive metric to measure what success is. I think it had something to do with that. So, okay, what is the measure of success? How are we going to measure if we're successful? And then somebody would speak and they'd kind of talk and they'd do this long little journey of speaking about the conditions, the obstacles for 20 minutes. And then at the end of that, I'd say, thank you for sharing that. What is the metric of success? And I am not exaggerating. I did that 4 or 5 times. And after every time there was this narrative, where they'd go and talk around all this stuff and not answer the specific question. And so when I think about this masterful thinking problem, there is this, time for sure to think through challenges and opportunities, but you're really pinning them down. You're forcing them to think through. It's kind of like the 5 whys, right?
Exactly.
And we all get stuck at one of those whys where you're asked why once and you're like, oh, I got this. I know my purpose, and you share it. And then why is that your purpose? And then you come up with the idea and then they're, okay, why? And at some point you just get stumped, right? And there's some deep thinking that takes place as you go through that process of digging in to find out, why you haven't achieved the success you want to. Why hasn't your business grown to the degree that you want it to? Why are you hitting the same struggles year after year? And unless you take the time to partner, with the masterful thinking partner, you can't really dig in and understand why it is you're struggling in the area you're struggling. I mean, that's what I see as the benefit. What would you see as a benefit to having a masterful thinking partner?
I would go back and say there are, in my experience and everything else, if I put everything together, there are about 10 areas which are very,
Okay.
very powerful. They can be very, very helpful. So let us go back and explore a couple of minutes on each one of those things. So the first one is an objective perspective. So basically, if you look at an entrepreneur, right, they're sometimes so close to their projects. They're very
Yeah.
passionate about it. And they keep on putting a lot of time and energy, but sometimes they need to go pull them up and look at it from a different viewpoint. And that is where I bring the perspective and say, hey, this is what, because once you are a masterful thinking partner, you are not emotionally involved. That is the difference. You are looking at everything very, very objectively and practically. The
Yeah.
entrepreneur, they bring a lot of emotion to it. They bring a lot of passion to it. But if the customer is not accepting it, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And that is very, very critical. So the first piece of it, I would say, is just getting a different objective, practical perspective on everything. It can be an initiative, it can be an hiring, it can be anything else.
Yeah.
Like one of my clients, he had 2 final candidates to hire them as the head of HR. It was a big, significant role because there was a lot of turnover and everything else. So these candidates, A and B, he really wanted to hire A. But based on the assessments and everything else, I recommended B.
Okay.
So we went on for 4 hours, he trying to convince me why A was the best. And then I went on, convinced him why B was better. And finally, he could not go back and he went and hired B. And I received such a big, long thank you note about a year after he went and hired B and said, I am so glad I hired B. My team is so ahead of time now.
Yeah.
Because he brought in some great talent to work with. He was great in networking, bringing in the right people, getting the right resources. Everything was very well done. So that is one of the perspective. It can be hiring, it can be strategy, it can be process, it can be product launch, it can be anything. So you're giving a different perspective and very, very practical, objective perspective there.
Yeah, and that's very different. I mean, you basically, in what you explained, you broke every rule in coaching, right?
Exactly.
So, but that's what your client needed at that moment. So the ability to adapt and be what your client needs in that moment is using your judgment, using your experience, which is why they hired you, is that they know what you bring to the table. There's trust there, and so you're able to clearly make a case for who they should hire in their organization. And it looks like it worked out. So that's great.
Yes.
What else?
So the next one I would go, number second is challenging assumptions. Right? A thinking partner really pushes the entrepreneur to question all the assumptions they're making. See, entrepreneurs are always coming up with great ideas. And they have certain inbuilt assumptions from them.
Yeah.
And somebody has to be making sure those assumptions are right because they're looking at it from their perspective. So somebody can question them. I can give you an example from your hometown, from Dallas. In 2021, basically 70% of their business was one big Fortune 500 company. So imagine a $20 million company with 70% coming from one client.
Oof, that's scary.
So I kept on telling them and saying, great. And he said, Raj, I can grow very faster with them. I can grow, but at the same time, you are really putting all your eggs in one basket. And after a lot of back and forth and stuff, because he was so comfortable, he never had a salesperson in his company. So I said, you keep doing what you're doing, but we will hire a salesperson who is very good at it. And his person, that salesperson's role is only to bring clients only from other customers, nothing to do with this client. You touch this, he cannot touch that. And fast forward now, instead of 70, they're at 45% today, 2 years fast forward. Now they have minimized the risk a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're continuing to grow. And now they see the value because their margins have gone up because the salesperson went to different companies. And since they were not dependent, they could go back and quote some higher prices and higher value. And now they're getting a better margin as well.
There you go. They never could have done that if they were still relying so heavily on that client. So that's great. I mean, because you would think, hey, I'm doing great. I got a great company I'm working with, and so this will all work out. But you challenge that, and it worked out.
Yeah.
Perfect. So so those are the first two benefits of a masterful thinking partner. What are the others?
The next one I would say is emotional support. And a lot of people don't understand that because they look at the entrepreneurs, they're very, very successful, they're always very busy and everything else, but they're human beings at the end of the day. They have their own situations and they're always going through roller coaster kind of highs and lows.
Yeah.
And this is where somebody can go back and really work with them and really help them and be that emotional support. So if they're going an emotional low, they can really discuss a lot of the challenges and what they're feeling and everything else with a thinking partner. When they're really going very, very high, they can celebrate with a lot of people, but celebrating with somebody who understands everything is a different kind of a celebration.
Yeah.
So both ways, when you're a low, you can go back and understand what it is, or sit with them and think about the 5 eyes. Why are we low? What is happening? And really problem solve with them, but emotionally providing the support. Or when they're high, go with them and celebrate whatever way you can celebrate. So that is where I would go back and say, because they can celebrate with their employees, they can celebrate with some of the other people, but the relationship is not at the same level when you have the person who is your masterful thinking partner, your mentor, your coach, and they bring that piece of it to the whole equation. The trust, I would say.
Definitely. That's good.
The fourth
number
one,
4.
Number 4, skills complementary. Because entrepreneurs are coming up with definitely some of their own skills. That's why they're successful as entrepreneurs. But they definitely need some complementary skills. And that is what a thinking partner can bring in their experiences, their skills and experiences that can help the entrepreneur in a situation where they are not. Like the example I told you, in a hiring decision, I was an expert in hiring. I knew a lot about the hiring piece of it. So I could go back and give them the compliment, help them with that skill piece of it and make the final decision, or help them to make the final decision.
Yeah.
And that would be the skill complement. Sometimes somebody, like our relationship between you and me, I'm not a technology person, but I really leverage a lot of your technology and really learn all the latest things that are happening from there.
Yeah.
So 2 months ago, I didn't know what ChatGPT was. Today, I feel like I've used it so much and I feel so comfortable with it. Thanks to you.
Yeah, we're getting dependent on it for sure. And there's so many new items coming out every single day. So I'm excited. I'm excited about what's coming. I think, thank you for giving me an opportunity to plug AI again. I don't get paid to do this, but I think if you're not learning how to use artificial intelligence, you're going to get passed up. You really need to jump in. And I know some people could say, yeah, that's what people said about the metaverse. You got to get into the metaverse. But the difference is, with the metaverse, you had to have hardware. You had to have buy hardware to use it. And with artificial intelligence, you just have, everybody already has a phone or a laptop, and we use all these products. You just get on the internet and use it. So it's a tool that's readily available, easy access to everybody, no fees and no hardware. So it's huge. It's not going anywhere.
Oh yeah, I can agree with you 100%. I mean, to your point, any single person who is working and doing, their productivity is enhanced.
Yes.
See, for me, basically my writing time and everything else has considerably gone down.
Yeah.
I still take the time to customize things, but at least the first draft, some of those things are much more easily done with the automation we have through AI. And now it becomes easy for us to modify that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I could go on and on, but I'll stop.
Hey, we are passionate about what we do, Drew. So we always do that, right?
Right.
So the next one is the accountability piece of it. See, a lot of sharing ideas and plans with a thinking partner really creates a sense of responsibility. Because when I'm thinking about it myself, and if I don't share with anybody else, as soon as I see the first obstacle, I might drop it.
Mm-hmm.
I might change course. I might do things. I might not do follow up. But since I'm working with somebody and doing a follow up and working with them, and they're constantly involved in the process, there is an accountability. And a simple example I would give between you and me is, if I would have said that I want to do a podcast by myself, I don't think I would have started. Even if I started, I would have stopped. But now we have a thinking partner and an accountability partner, and between both of us, we are continuously doing that. Yeah. It's a simple example, and that is what the entrepreneurs need. That is what. So I brainstorm an idea and go back and say in 2 weeks and say, hey, that was a great idea. You're supposed to go back and do A, B, and C. What is the status?
Yeah.
And they can't go back and say, no, I decided to drop it. I mean, if they have a genuine reason, fine, they can drop it. But at least they got to go back and say, hey, my assumptions were wrong and the assumptions changed. So I had to change my plans. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But they're accountable for it.
Yeah. And the reality is that most goals or visions in an organization, you don't decide to stop doing it. Everybody just forgets about it. When there's zero accountability or no mechanisms in place for accountability, then you're probably not going to achieve it. And, the objective perspective, it kind of goes hand in hand, because for us as coaches, we're taking notes when in these sessions, and then we go away and then we come back and all we have are the notes that we had from the last session. And so we're able to be very specific in, hey, last time we discussed this, you said you were going to do this, where are you at? And they're like, oh, I forgot about that. Okay, well, do you want to make it your goal in the next 2 weeks? And so yeah, the accountability piece is huge with people.
And Drew, a great example is New Year in gyms. If you look at a gym, right, the first month of Jan, they're so packed. You go back in second week of Feb, again, it is back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a big fan of exercise. I don't like it. And what did I do? About 3 years ago, I hired a coach, a mentor, advisor on that. I clearly told her I didn't want her to be just like a coach. I wanted her to be more like a thinking partner for me. And I told her what I like, what I don't like, and everything else. And guess what? When we schedule a thing, if I'm late by 5 minutes, I get a phone call. Nice. Hey, where are you? What is happening? Yeah. So that is the accountability piece of it for me now. So it is 3 years and I have been consistently doing it. I missed maybe 1% of the time, which is like a huge record for me. And that is the power of the accountability partner piece of it.
Yeah, that's good.
And the sixth one is basically boosting creativity. because they can go back and work with their team members, and that is one side of creativity and bringing all of that into picture. But there are certain times where they want to think beyond the teams, beyond things.
Yeah.
And that is where they can bring with the thinking partner, and they can go back and share some, basically brainstorm with different ideas and everything else. And the biggest part of it is most of the time, the thinking partner comes from a very, very different background, from a very, very different perspective. And that is where they get a lot of value out of this.
Yeah.
Basically, the entrepreneur is looking at it based on their experiences and stuff, their mindset. And now you got a different mindset with different things, and they have the trust to listen to each other and work with each other. And that is where creativity comes.
Yeah, I've seen that time and time again. That's a fun one for me. I enjoy ideas and giving creative ideas to people, and that I think a lot of value comes with having people be a brainstorming partner outside of your organization, different experiences, different industry, not in the middle of it. It's tremendously beneficial.
Yes. And the next one, very, very critically important for entrepreneurs, is risk mitigation. See, by nature, entrepreneurs are risk takers, right? They love to take risks. But now they have a person to look at it objectively. Like on a stage one company with 10 employees, I can take risks because I either survive or don't survive based on that risk. But once I have 25, 30 employees, I still need to have the risk mindset, but I can't take anything other than calculated risks. So they need to be, because now 20 to 25 employees are dependent on you.
Yeah.
And that becomes very, very important. And this is where a thinking partner can lead and really bring that brainstorming session to the whole thing and say, hey, you're doing this fine, or I really suspect this, or we need to go back and get some additional information on this versus that.
Yeah.
Like one of my clients in the Middle East was trying to go back and have a JV partner.
Okay.
Joint venture with a different company. And then I was talking to him and I started asking all these questions about it to get curious. I started asking out of curiosity, nothing to do with coaching or mentoring or advisory. And then immediately I went back and said, looking at it, I said, why are you giving up so much equity for such a small amount? And then he said, what do you mean by that? And then we got into the details. So all the risk was being taken by him, and 50% of the equity was going to the partner.
Wow.
And all for very, very small amount. And that went to the drawing. They went back to the drawing board, revisited the whole thing. Guess what? They didn't even go back and bring in the partner, and they completely went on their own. And they're so happy that they went through. So no Jovi, they just took their money. And I told them, overall picture, the money investment was very, very small, and the risk was very small compared to what they were giving away. So a joint venture, 50% of the equity would have gone for the next 10 years if they would have gone to the JV. And now everything is theirs.
That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, I think when you're in the thick of it as an entrepreneur, you just want to see action, right? You're so driven by action and making things happen and getting the ball moving. And is there some way I can get to the goal faster? And yeah, I could see for sure. I know my desire for speed and for achieving the goals faster have definitely cost me, right? Taking risks that I shouldn't have taken because I didn't take the time to slow down and talk to somebody about the decision I was looking to make.
Yes.
And sometimes, let me just put it out there, sometimes entrepreneurs, you avoid the people that would give you good advice because you don't want to hear it. You want to believe the dream, right? What is it? I heard this marketing guy, he said, marketing is all about selling the dream solution, right? The dream solution. And so sometimes the marketing's so good and you think, this is it. This is the dream solution. This is what's going to make me 10x my company. And sometimes it's not the dream solution. It's just good marketing.
Yes. Very, very true. Very, very true. So moving along to the next one, basically, Drew, decision confirmation. So most of the time, entrepreneurs are very comfortable doing it. But while they're growing, there are certain situations that they're really unsure about some of the decisions.
Yeah.
And this is where to really get a second person's validation or really understanding of it and giving them perspective. So it can be combined with the number one, offering a different perspective, but here it is mostly focused on the decision side of it. Hey, I'm going to invest this X number of dollars in real estate, but I really am not sure if it is going to be beneficial versus investing in real estate versus leasing a property.
Yeah.
Sometimes those kind of questions come up. And then the objectivity of the trusted advisor and their experiences and everything else comes into picture, and they can go back and really help them build that confidence and guide them either or kind of a situation.
Yeah, and I think the word confidence there is what comes to mind for me. I've found that I was going through a strategic life planning process and thinking through kind of the value I bring. What's kind of my value proposition as an individual? What do I bring to people? And I came to the conclusion that it's confidence. You know, at the end of the day, when I'm done with the coaching call, when I'm done with the training, I want to instill confidence in the people receiving that from me, receiving whether it's training or coaching. So I think that's a huge thing. A lot of people, entrepreneurs as well. I know sometimes when I talk about a situation that I have upcoming, whether it's an opportunity or a challenge, I'll talk to you about it. And I might have an idea of what I want to do. I'll share that with you. You'll add something to it, but then you'll affirm what it is that I'm doing, and getting that confirmation, that decision confirmation. It just makes you go out with that much more confidence to go and take action and keep the whole thing going. So that's a big one. I think the confidence piece is a huge piece. That it's kind of like emotional support. It is a mental thing. Many times you've done the practice, you've done everything you need to do to prepare, but getting that one last boost of confidence from a thinking partner, a trusted advisor, you know, a person that's in your corner in that way can go a long way for folks.
Yes, very, very critical for that. And the number 9 is my favorite, expanding networks.
Yeah.
Because each one of us, we know we have our own network of people and everything else.
Yeah.
So definitely the entrepreneur has his or her own network. They can go back and leverage that. But a thinking partner comes with their own network. And especially if you have an experienced person. I remember a few years ago, one of my clients, he's a small business, and they were going after a big contract with a company. And he was one of the 2 finalists. And the biggest question the company was making is they wanted to come and evaluate the company. And they said, we are looking for somebody who's very good in Lean and Six Sigma. They need to have systems and processes around all of those things. So the CEO of the company, the entrepreneur, called me and said, Raj, this is the situation. Can we sit and brainstorm? Then I said, hey, find out who these people is, who they are and stuff and everything else. So we went back and looked at it. And guess what? I told him I want to be there on the day. It was a half-a-day audit. And what I told him was, make sure they are auditing us first before they go to the second company.
Yeah.
And guess what? The person who was auditing was their head of Six Sigma quality. And he was certified by me when I was at GE.
Wow.
So as soon as he came, he was like, Raj, what are you doing here? Hey, I'm part of this team. And this is where we are and stuff. And then he said, I don't have any questions regarding Six Sigma because you are taking care of everything. So which was a big liability for them. They didn't even bother about it because of the relationship I had, and he knows what kind of rigor we bring to the Six Sigma world. And he said, oh, you know what? You don't need to worry about it. Guys, any questions you want, you can ask. But he was so comfortable with it. And guess what? They didn't even go to the visit for the second company. They just awarded the contract to them.
Wow. That's good.
And that is, the networking is so powerful there.
Yeah, you know, you're kind of boosting my confidence with the masterful thinking partner. I think I do more of that than I realize, because that's definitely something I always try to do before I was ever a coach or anything else, is leveraging my network, right? Trying to connect people that have synergy. And I'll do that with my clients. If I have another client that's using a great tool, and I'm talking to a client and they say they have a problem, they have a need, I go, you know what? I know somebody that found a solution. Let me find out what that is. And you can share that network or that solution with them. And and that's a huge piece. I know it's helped people tremendously in my engagements with folks. So that's a good one. Expanding network. It really, you can't, your network is your net worth, right? You can't put a
Yes.
value on that. It's so, you never know when you're going to need to reach out to somebody in your network. And when you have a big network and a lot of connections, or you know somebody that does, it's very valuable.
Yes. And the number 10, the last but not the least, personal growth. Because
Mm,
entrepreneurs, they are so comfortable with what they're doing and stuff. Once they get into the field, they tend to forget about really their own personal growth. They're always looking at their products, their services, and everything else, but they are not going. And this is
yeah,
where this thinking partner can really provide some continuous feedback, really have discussions, occasional challenging them about a question or something, or even telling them, guys, you need to go back and really learn these things. And that is how they can help them from personal and professional growth.
yeah,
Because most of my clients I work with, there is always, I'm telling them, hey, I see this in this. I recommend this book or a book summary, or we need to do this for an hour and really learn from this. So I'm always recommending books or articles or something like that. Or sometimes I tell them, go and attend this class.
yeah,
And that is the last piece of it, because they have to continuously learn and grow to grow their company. Personal growth becomes business growth for an entrepreneur. And most of the people
absolutely.
want to do that, but they never find the time. And this is where
Hmm.
the partner can really go back and help them.
That's good. That's so good. So I guess the first thing is really for the entrepreneurs listening, I mean, they need to determine what it is they need. Some people might want a pure coach, and they
Yes.
they want to be asked questions and go through the grow process. Others want a mentor. They just want someone that has experience that they can ask questions of and they can get answers to. And then for some folks out there, they want a masterful thinking partner. They want a person that can flow in and out of coaching, mentoring, but then also some consulting in there and some challenging of assumptions to the individual. And so the first step I would say for the entrepreneurs is that listening is to figure out what do you need? What do you need at this
Yes.
time in your business, in your growth? What is going to benefit you the most? And then what are you willing to do, right? To go and make that happen for your organization. Maybe even ask yourself the question, if you had a person like we described, a masterful thinking partner, what do you think 2024 will look like for your business if you had a masterful thinking partner? And I think that's a great question for every entrepreneur out there to ask themselves and really think through, spend some time thinking through that question. If there's a great benefit, then you probably need to go out and hire a masterful thinking partner. If there's not much benefit to that at this time in your life, maybe you have some people in and around your life that you can call on and lean on that cover some of those qualities, then good, you're set. No need.
Yes.
But I don't know. What other advice do you have kind of as we wrap this up tonight?
So the biggest piece of it, I really like what you said, is thinking about 2024, right? So I would go back, just this is, I don't have any data to back it up, but from my gut and experiences, if you get the right masterful thinking partner, I would say it's going to have at least a 10% positive effect on your business.
Mm,
10% productivity, 10% growth, whatever it is. I'm being conservative, but if you go back and have the partner and really implement everything that you have learned and what you have discussed, I would really feel comfortable saying that at least 10% growth. If you are at $10 million, just imagine getting a $1 million in incremental value because you
yeah.
hired the right thinking partner. That is what I would leave everybody with. Explore that, look at it. If you have a coach, great. And sometimes, if you can't find one person with three, that is perfectly fine. Go back and get a coach for them, and they have a role and they definitely help you. Get a mentor from the industry you are and really do that. And then explore and look at it from a masterful thinking partner.
Yeah.
And the second piece of it, I would say, is spend at least an hour or two before you get into a long term contract,
Mm,
because you really want to sit there and really build a trust piece of it. Number one is trust. Number two, do they have the background and everything else to be a masterful thinking partner? So take at least 1 or 2 sessions. And if they're not offering it for complimentary, go back and pay them and say, hey, I want to do a 2 or 3 days, 3 sessions with you to really understand who you are. And then we can come up with into a long term contract.
yeah. That's good. That's great advice. And if you think you like Raj or myself, you can always just reach out to us.
Yes, definitely. I would love to go back and work with everybody I can work with.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's great. What a wonderful episode, Raj. And I think there's tremendous value in there. Entrepreneurs, you got a homework assignment. Figure out what the value would be if you found a masterful thinking partner, and calculate that and see if you need to make some adjustments to your budget for 2024 so that you can get that at least 10% increase. And I do think that's a modest increase. I was working with an organization that they had 3% increase year over year, 6% increase year over year. And then the year that I worked with them, they had a 23% increase. And so, there is definite opportunities if you get focused. And the big key, I think, in there is you get accountability with a thinking partner. So with that, thank you so much for listening, everybody. Hope you have a great week. Raj, thank you for all the wonderful insights, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, Drew. Looking forward to the next one.